Imagine standing in front of a massive, ancient vault. You have held the key in your hand for your entire life, but you never realized the key itself held a deeper pattern. That is exactly what it is like when we look at the original Hebrew of our Bibles. We read the stories, we hear the parables, and we feel the inspiration. But beneath the surface of those letters, there is a heartbeat of divine symbolism. In the Jewish and Christian tradition, this is often explored through gematria, a meditative lens where every letter is also a number, and every word carries a specific weight. Right now, in the intense moment of history we have entered, it feels as though the seal on that vault is starting to crack open. It is not just imagination, it is the Spirit moving, inviting us to reflect on truths hidden for ages. In this tradition, numerical patterns are used symbolically for reflection, not as predictive codes or mechanisms that determine history. Scripture never presents numbers as activating events. They serve only as symbolic witnesses to truths already revealed by God. This approach belongs to the tradition of typological and allegorical reading used by both Jewish interpreters and early Christian theologians, where meaning is drawn through resonance rather than calculation. There is a question that has haunted believers for 2,000 years. How do we know when the preparation is over? How do we actually know when the bride of Christ is ready for the groom? We talk about it every Sunday. We say the time is near. But what if the answer is a symbolic pattern woven into the very words for bride and Messiah? This is not a claim of secret knowledge or hidden timelines. Scripture warns against date setting. What we explore here are symbolic harmonies meant to deepen devotion, not replace doctrine. This matters because the world feels as though it is shaking to its core. As we navigate these days, you can feel a shift in the atmosphere. You see recurring patterns of human conflict, economic instability, and technological acceleration. You feel the tension in your spirit and wonder if there is a spiritual map for this unrest. If God is the master architect of the universe, He invites us to see patterns in His Word that reflect His sovereign purpose. To reflect on the symbolic echoes behind the bride and the Messiah is to glimpse a divine invitation to readiness. It is about your heart's posture and your faith amid the trials. This is not mathematics governing redemption, but poetry revealing its meaning. Welcome to Understanding the Word. I'm Pastor Najam. Let us start with the first clue, the Hebrew word for bride, which is kala. In the Hebrew language, every stroke of the pen carries a symbolic weight. The word kala, spelled kaf, lamed, he, adds up to the number 55. In the biblical world, numbers often symbolize deep spiritual concepts, and many teachers have associated the number 5 with themes of grace, God's unearned favor. Therefore, a double 5 or 55 suggests an intensity of grace, grace upon grace. It is a picture of someone being transformed and made pure through divine mercy. The bride symbolizes a finished work of the Spirit, a state of total divine readiness. In Revelation, the bride has made herself ready, clothed in fine linen, bright and clean. The root of kala connects to kalo, meaning to complete or perfect. The bride is the perfected one whom grace has shaped. In the Song of Songs, she appears in moments of deep intimacy, emerging from the wilderness leaning on her beloved. In Isaiah, God rejoices over His people as a groom over His bride, renamed and redeemed. This 55 echoes an abundance of grace, like the 5 loaves feeding thousands, multiplying beyond measure. This is symbolic theology at work, a lens to see covenant imagery more clearly. But a bride, by her very nature, points to union. The number 55 suggests one side of a greater harmony reaching for something deeper. It is a symbol of preparation that whispers of coming completion. In the Song of Songs, the bride is longing, calling out for her beloved to draw her away. She is ready, but the story yearns for fulfillment. This is a metaphorical invitation to deeper faith in uncertain times. If the bride symbolizes readiness through grace, what does the Messiah reflect in His arrival? When we look at the Hebrew word for Messiah, Mashiach, the value is 358. This number holds great weight in Hebrew thought. Interestingly, it is the same numerical value as Nachash, which means serpent. This is not an identity, but a profound typological reversal. The serpent image functions as a paradoxical sign, where the instrument of the curse becomes the stage on which redemption is displayed. God transforms the symbol of judgment into a sign pointing toward rescue. Remember when Moses lifted up the bronze serpent in the wilderness? The people sinned and were bitten, but looking in faith brought life. Jesus himself drew the parallel, stating that as Moses lifted up the serpent, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. The Messiah enters the story of the curse to break its power. He reflects the authority that steps into chaos to bring order. From Genesis, where the seed of the woman is promised to crush the serpent's head, we see a pattern of reversal, curse turned to blessing. Redemption is personal and Christ-centered. It is Jesus, the Anointed One, fulfilling what was shadowed. This is classic typology, where shadows point to substance without causing it. There is a symbolic rhythm between the 55 of the bride and the 358 of the Messiah. They suggest overlapping themes that go beyond chance, like two melodies in a symphony sensing their harmony. We see similar patterns in the dimensions of the tabernacle and the temple. The measurements, cubits arranged in sacred ratios, echo themes of dwelling and atonement. The Holy of Holies, a perfect cube, symbolizes divine presence. These structures were stone parables of union. Early church fathers saw the Song of Songs as the soul's bridal union with Christ, and the bride as the city of God, a covenant community in love with her King. Which brings us to a pressing question. Does the harmony of these symbols suggest a thematic convergence of God's kingdom purposes? The bride's journey is one of sanctification, being made spotless and without wrinkle. The Messiah is the Alpha and Omega, the initiator and the completer. When these themes of grace and redemption come together, they mirror the ancient pictures of the wedding supper of the Lamb. In ancient Jewish customs, the groom paid the price and went to prepare a home while the bride waited, keeping her lamp lit. Jesus echoed this, saying he went to prepare a place and would come again. No one knows the day or hour, but the season is discerned by the watchful. This is about hearts aligning with God's timing. In those traditions, the groom returned suddenly with a shout and a trumpet. Paul speaks of the Lord descending with a cry and the trumpet of God. This is the bridal departure, the union beginning. It is the symbolic reminder that the home is being readied and the Father will give the word. When we look at the world today, we see shifts toward greater interconnectedness and unified systems. But beneath that, the bride is called to deeper prayer. She is embracing the grace symbolized in 55 total reliance on God's favor amid trials. Think of the early church, persecuted but growing, or the prophets in exile holding to promises. This is the same call now. This means the challenges in your life, the tests and the fires of refinement, are not without purpose. You are being shaped into that bride, fitted for union. The Messiah is the living one at the door, knocking and waiting for the voice that opens. The symbolic echoes between bride and Messiah invite us to see this union as God's heart from eternity. It is baked into the fabric of His word, from the garden's promise to the cross's victory. The preparation's end is reflected in the thematic convergence of grace and redemption. Dive deeper into the bridal stories that flesh this out. Take Ruth, the outsider drawn into God's plan, laying at the feet of Boaz, her Redeemer. Her faithfulness meets his strength. Take Rebekah, who left her home to meet Isaac at eventide, a tender picture of the bride called out and the groom waiting. These Old Testament brides foreshadow the church, grafted into the root. Consider Hosea, commanded to marry an unfaithful woman to illustrate God's pursuit of His people. It is a pattern of faithful love overcoming betrayal. In the New Testament, Jesus at Cana turns water into wine, the true bridegroom providing joy when the old runs out. Paul speaks of betrothing the church to one husband, presenting her as a pure virgin to Christ. Revelation crowns the story. The marriage of the Lamb has come, and the bride is arrayed in fine linen. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." It is the ultimate invitation. Reflect on the Jewish feasts, Passover's redemption, Shavuot's betrothal at Sinai, and Sukkot's joyous ingathering. Patterns suggesting seasons of God's work, not clocks ticking by numbers. Personal stories bring it home, those in deep trials finding strength in the knowledge that they are being prepared, not abandoned. This identity shifts everything. In church life, it calls for unity. In society, it is a witness of hope. Stay grounded. Avoid speculation and focus on character. The bride's veil is being lifted. This is not about fear, but fuel for readiness. Scripture warns of deception, a man of lawlessness mimicking the king, but the bride discerns by the Spirit. Daily application means morning devotions asking to be made ready and evenings reflecting on grace received. In community, we encourage one another. Believers across history have reflected on Scripture through symbol, poetry, and typology to help the heart perceive harmony. From the bride's side foreshadowing the church from Christ's pierced side to the prophets calling the faithless to return, the invitation is consistent. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, all building the tapestry of God's heart. The Messiah is the anointed one who bears and reverses the curse. The wedding imagery builds hope, from the abundance at Cana to the great banquet where the streets are filled with the poor and invited. It is a call to readiness and proper attire, the righteousness of Christ. The Father decides when the preparation is done. Can you hear the whisper of construction in the distance? You are being shaped step by step into that bride. Pray with passion, love without holding back, and forgive as you have been forgiven. Share the hope amid the unrest. The symbolic echoes invite us to see this union as God's heart from eternity. We are not waiting passively. We are living into the kingdom story unfolding. What other biblical patterns await our reflection, drawing us closer to Him in these days? The door is open. The symphony is reaching its conclusion. The groom is at the door. Are you ready to walk through it?